The VOA's Jessa Simon Oni joins us now. She's in Washington. Jessa Simon, thank you for joining us on the program. Talk to us about how those protests are going on today. Are they still as violent even in Washington?
Well, it's still early here in Washington. What we've seen with the protests since the video went viral is that demonstrators start gathering a little later towards the day. So about now or a couple of hours from now. And then they turn violent after the sun goes down. So it's a bit early to say how today and tonight will look. What we can say is that what we've seen in the past 6 to 7 days now is that these protests have completely intensified, and there is no saying when we are going to see a pause, a cooling down, or an end to this.
So let's just do some revision. There was a protest near the White House yesterday, and the president had to be briefly put in a bunker. Do we understand what the protesters near the White House hope to achieve with threatening the White House, apparently?
Well, it doesn't seem like they were trying to get inside the White House. I think a lot of these protests have been to get attention nationwide, and I saw it in the package. A lot of attention has been given to the violence and the looting. But just as we are seeing across the nation, and as we saw at the White House yesterday, a lot of these demonstrations actually start out very peaceful. What they want is social justice. And they're speaking against police brutality, which they feel has been occurring in this community, in this nation for decades upon decades, and it has just blown up since this video went viral.
Let's talk about the policemen who were seen joining the protest, some of them holding posters, some also chanted along with the crowd. How does this reflect on the police generally in light of the reason why the protests are holding in the first place?
Yes, we've seen police officers not just joining in with the protest, but some even taking a knee. The chief of the district, the department that this all started with, actually went to the site where Floyd was pinned down, and he, took a moment of silence, got on his knees. And so we're seeing that across the nation. We're seeing a lot of law enforcement coming out against the initial incident and what that officer, Derek Chauvin, did. But we are also seeing that in some cases, that the situation, the incidents have become so violent, and police departments are also being criticized for being heavy-handed in their response to some of these protesters.
Now, speaking of the heavy-handedness, some members of the press have been caught up, in some of this heavy-handedness. A reporter, I think, with the NBC or MSNBC, I think, had a rubber bullet hit her eye, and now she's permanently blind in one eye. It appears the press is getting caught up in the protests. Some of them also, being arrested and taking direct hit from the police. Is it difficult to tell who's a journalist and who is not, who's a protester in the protests? Are these really innocent mistakes the police is making?
Well, we can't speak to the intent, and I certainly can't speak to how things get chaotic. I think some instances have been very clear that these are reporters, like the arrest that you mentioned of the CNN reporter. I can say for our organization, we've been told to display our press passes as prominently as we can to stand out. Of course, there is no saying what will happen, and a lot of these officers are also individuals, and it's very hard to read how they will respond and react to people they see in the crowd.
Joseph Cement, thank you again for speaking with us on The World Today.